Hello and welcome to another What's a Geek laptop review. So over here we have the Lenovo Y740, their latest and greatest gaming laptop. This is the 15-inch version, and fans of our content will notice something. It looks just like, at least from afar, like the previous laptop we reviewed, the Lenovo Legion Y530. Now, the thing about the Y530 and the Y740 is, yes, they do have similar, bezel-less screens, and they got this little notch over here where the screen is like slightly pulled back. But one of the highlights of the Y740's design over the Y530, with Y500 series in general, is the fact that it is an all-metal chassis. And now, that makes for some really nice, thin and light form factors, some really sturdy durability. I like this very much. And I'm not sure about this, but I think it's also helpful for heat dissipation. More than that, though, it's just so nice in the hands. Now, that's something strange to say about a laptop, not necessarily. It's got the heft of a laptop that's much smaller, but it also just feels so sturdy in the hands, like it's not made of plastic or any cheap materials. So it almost, in many ways, it resembles the gaming version of like a really premium Ultrabook or even a MacBook Pro. That's one of the nice things about Lenovo's Legion branding. It's got a lot of professionalism to it. Like many laptop makers have these obnoxious colors everywhere, this funky design, sometimes automobile inspired, sometimes sci-fi inspired, and while we get it, it's nice, it's cute sometimes, it can also be kind of tacky. And those laptops are not necessarily something that you want to bring to work. But with the Lenovo Legion laptops we've seen so far, the only branding is, in fact, the subtle lettering of Lenovo Legion right here. And everything else is just either a couple of RGB accents or, well, most of the action actually takes place in front of the keyboard. So, it's a great design overall. But it's more than just the material that's changed with the Y740 compared to its lower-end sibling, the Y530. The Y740 has an array of I/O upgrades that makes it a perfect laptop for gamers, for people who are studying, working. Basically, all of your connectivity options are covered by the left, right, and rear ports of the Y740. Let's take a look at what we have in the back. Over here we have Lenovo's proprietary power supply connector. We have a USB 3.0 Gen 1 USB connector. We have an Ethernet port here, 1 Gbps, gigabit Ethernet, just like almost every laptop today. And then over here is a USB 3.1 Gen 2 port with 10 Gbps of bandwidth. And that's very helpful for people who have like these brand new USB 3.1 Gen 2 SSDs or anyone requiring something with a little more bandwidth. And over here, of course, we have HDMI. And next to the HDMI is a mini DisplayPort connector, which you'd often find in like MacBooks or other modern laptops. Now, I'm not sure what this means, if it's going to be 144 Hz output, because many laptops don't support that. Now, on the left side of the laptop over here, we have the very welcome addition of USB Type-C Thunderbolt, which we did not have on the Y530. Is that a headphone jack? Yes, it is. And on the right side of the chassis, we have a single USB 3.1 Gen 1. I really hate these USB naming schemes. Thank God for USB 4. And it's not just I/O that's changed. I mean, the Y740 is significantly more expensive than its lower-end sibling, and for what reason? Well, let's find out. The Y740 not only has the current Gen i7-8750H, just like the previous Y530, but the graphics card is, well, it's an RTX 2060 in a little metal box. Yes, that's right, it is desktop class RTX 2060 performance in a form factor that just a couple of years ago would be considered thin and light. Let's talk about the RTX 2060 notebook version though. Like all laptop graphics cards, it's not exactly as fast as its desktop namesake. In fact, the RTX 2060 is approximately equivalent in speed to the mobile GTX 1070, which is about the speed of the desktop 1070. But aside from being as fast as the 1070, almost as fast as the desktop 1070, the RTX 2060 of course includes Nvidia's RTX technology. One of my favorite implementations of RTX is Metro Exodus, which actually uses RTX for lighting, not just perfect reflections or shadows like Battlefield 5 and Shadow of the Tomb Raider use. Now let's talk about the thing that we'll be interacting with the most when using the Y740, the keyboard. The keyboard has RGB! What do you know? A feature that was sorely missing from the Y530. We didn't really miss it. I mean, RGB it's hit or miss for many people. But for those of you who love RGB, the Y740 has per key RGB lighting, which means you can set it in whatever pattern you want and control it using the built-in software. The keyboard, besides having RGB lighting, doesn't have a numpad, which is sometimes you could call it unusual for a 15-inch laptop. But the thing about the Lenovo Y740, like its other Legion siblings, is that it has a 15-inch screen, sure, but it has the form factor of a 14-inch laptop thanks to the small bezels. Now, the small bezels also, well, they shift the webcam to the bottom of the screen, which can make for some unflattering shots when you're doing video chat. Okay, so onto the actual keyboard. There legitimately isn't any space for a numpad on a keyboard on a chassis this size. So that's okay, numpad enthusiasts can just buy a USB numpad if that's your thing. Anyway, the actual keyboard is fine. It actually has this chiclet design with nice travel that reminds me of almost every Lenovo keyboard ever made. One of my annoyances with this keyboard is actually a column of keys that Lenovo added to the left side of the layout. Now, over here, we have what appears to be a dedicated Lenovo Vantage button, which gives you access to setting up macro keys, optimizing, which means network boost, and auto close, which means apps which are automatically closed when you launch a game, and access to system tools. So you press this button over here, and you get access to hardware settings, a hardware scan, system update. Now, the problem with having a button like this is that you're taking up real estate on your keyboard layout for something that might not necessarily be in frequent use. Now, adding is fine if you put it on the top row, but the problem is my reflex when using the Y740 is to put my keys like spread out across. But that means that, like for example, my pinky here would be on the control button. The problem is my pinky is now on the RGB keyboard brightness button, which is on this column of keys. And I'm not very happy about that, but I think it just takes a little bit of getting used to. So this row of keys includes the access to Lenovo Vantage Software, this dedicated, what appears to be a Windows game bar button. Now, I'm not really sure why this button has to be like dedicated, because it's just the Windows G shortcut remapped to that. There are also two macro keys here, M1 and M2, which you can just assign to recorded macros, which are very useful for MMOs or RTSs. The problem is there are only two of them. So just like if you got macro keys, why not go all out? Almost everything with macro keys has like 5 or 6, or even an entire separate row of macro keys, but there are just 2 here. I would have actually been happy if this entire row of keys, this entire column of keys, were just macro keys. But it's a very minor quibble, but is otherwise a very nice feeling keyboard. Now, another thing to note is that this trackpad is not very big. In fact, it's kind of too wide, but not tall enough. And it's actually, interestingly, it's one of the flimsiest feeling parts of the laptop. And it's not really a big deal. I mean, if you're using a gaming laptop in general, you're going to be using a gaming mouse anyway, right? But the thing is, you know, for the on-the-go purpose of using it for work or school or something, this trackpad is just way too small. Like, even moving as fast as I can, I'm having a hard time reaching like the immediate edges of the screen. Like, it's not like I have to like do this or anything, but it's just a little bit inconvenient. I would have preferred something bigger, and I also would have preferred something where there is the ability to actually push down on the touchpad to result in a click. Now, I know many people don't actually like that, but this is a personal preference because these keys down here are they're kind of deep, you know. They push them in, and your nail drags on the edge of the touchpad, which is okay, I guess, if you just remember that your finger should be in the middle of the key when you press it. But this is just kind of annoying. But it scrapes against the bottom of the touchpad, and again, not a big deal. Most people will be using mice anyway, but it may be a concern for the mobility factor of the laptop. Alright, let's move on to the moment you've all been waiting for. How does the RTX 2060 graphics card in this laptop perform? What's all this? Where'd all this come from? Continuity error much? Anyway, so what we're going to be doing today to test the Lenovo Y740 is play a couple of rounds of Apex Legends. Now, in order to get the most out of our gameplay session, we'll bring in professional Apex Legends player, Chad Yee.
It's gaming time.
Are you a Borg drone, Chad?
Maybe. Alright, so yeah, using this laptop, it's honestly like, I don't really have a lot of frame of references for good like laptop performance, but it runs really well, almost as well as my desktop, which has a 1070 and an i5 6th gen. So, well, it's gonna be better since this one is like an i7 8th gen and an RTX 2060. And while we don't have any experience of it running in, you know, room temperature, since we're in an air-conditioned room, it seems to be, you know, at a good temperature as well. And yeah, the screen also looks really great, and since it's IPS, I can like the colors are great. I can look at it in different angles and it'll still look okay. So yeah, it runs really well. Everything's on high, by the way. So yeah.
And there you have it, another satisfying What's a Geek laptop review. Let us know if you liked what you saw. We're gonna have a lot more to come, and hit us up in the comments if you want to see anything else. Now, if you want to see the gameplay that we actually played and not just see what we did for performance, you can check out our Let's Play of Apex Legends with me and Chad in the video right below. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Haha!